Louise Hay discovered something that forever changed how she connected with men. It was a whisper. Simple as that. But when she whispered specific words into a man's ear, something extraordinary happened. He became utterly captivated by her voice. And today you're going to discover exactly what she whispered. But before I reveal these magic words, I need to tell you a story Louise Hay never shared publicly, a story hidden within her private journals. It was 1978. Louise was going through one of the hardest times of her life. Her marriage had ended. She felt invisible, voiceless, powerless. That's when she began studying something no one else was paying attention to back then: the hypnotic power of a woman's voice. Have you ever noticed how some women can make any man stop what he's doing just to listen to them speak? It's not about beauty. It's not about status. It's about something far deeper. It's about frequency. Louise discovered that a woman's voice operates on specific frequencies that activate primal neural centers in the male brain, centers directly connected to the reward system, to addiction, to desire. But here's the secret she guarded for years. It's not just any voice that does this. It has to be the right voice and in the right tone, whispering the right words. Let me explain how this works in his brain. When you whisper close to a man's ear, you're activating something called a meridian auditory response. It's the same sensation some people feel when they hear certain specific sounds, that shiver down the spine, that feeling of inexplicable pleasure. Only Louise discovered how to amplify this, multiplying the effect 1,000-fold. She realized that when a woman whispers, using what she called a magnetic tone, three things happen simultaneously in the male brain. First, there's a massive release of dopamine. Second, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought, decreases its activity. Third, and this is the most important, the brain creates a neurological association between her voice and pleasure. That's exactly how addiction is formed. But Louise went further. She discovered that there are specific words that, when whispered at this frequency, create what she called emotional anchors in the male subconscious. Anchors that make him think of you every time he hears a voice similar to yours. Anchors that make him miss your presence in an almost physical way. Anchors that make his voice change when he speaks to you, becoming softer, more intimate, more vulnerable. I know this may sound impossible. I know you might be thinking, does this really work? Let me tell you what happened to Sarah. Sarah was one of the most skeptical students in the secret workshops Louise gave in the 80s. She had been trying to regain her husband's attention for 3 years. She changed her look, her clothes. She even started making his favorite meals. Nothing worked, until Louise taught her the 3 specific words she should whisper in his ear before bed. Sarah told me years later that on the first night when she whispered those words, her husband turned to her with a look she hadn't seen in months. A look of complete attention, as if she were the only person in the world at that moment. On the second night, he asked her to repeat what she had whispered. On the third night, he was waiting for it. In 2 weeks, he had cancelled a business trip just to spend more time with her. In a month, friends were commenting on how he spoke of her with a different sparkle in his eyes. In 3 months, Sarah had become completely irresistible to him. But here's the most interesting part. This didn't just work with her husband. Sarah noticed that when she used this same technique in casual conversations, whispering certain words to men in social situations, they became visibly more attentive. They asked more questions. They remembered details of conversations weeks later. Some even changed their work route to pass by the place where they used to talk. It was as if her voice had become a drug. And that brings us to the first secret Louise discovered about the power of the whisper. Location is everything. It's not about whispering anything anywhere. It's about whispering the right words at the right energetic points on his body. Louise identified 5 specific points she called auditory portals. 5 places where the whisper penetrates not just the ear, but directly into the nervous system, creating a cascade of sensations that the male brain interprets as deep intimacy. The first portal is obvious, the ear, but not in the way you might imagine. Most women whisper too close to the ear, causing discomfort. Louise discovered the perfect distance, 2 centimeters, where her breath lightly touches his skin and the voice arrives with complete clarity. At this distance, the whisper creates a vibration felt physically and energetically. The second portal is at the base of the neck, right behind the ear. When you whisper directing your voice to this point, you are activating an area rich in nerve endings that are directly connected to the limbic system, the most primitive part of the brain. The third portal is even more powerful, but Louise only revealed this secret to her most advanced students. It's a point at the back of the neck where the neck meets the shoulders. When you whisper at this point, something almost magical happens. The voice descends down the spine like a wave of energy, creating a sensation that many men describe as creepy or hypnotic. But knowing where to whisper is only half the equation. The other half is knowing what to whisper. And here we arrive at the heart of Louise Hay's method, the words that create emotional addiction. Louise discovered that there are 3 categories of words that, when whispered at the right frequency, create neurological addiction: words of recognition, words of the future, and words of secrecy. Words of recognition are those that make him feel seen in a way that no one else can see. They're not obvious compliments, they're intimate observations about qualities he didn't even know he possessed. For example, instead of saying "you're strong," Louise taught her students to whisper something like, "There's a silent strength in you that fascinates me." Hearing this whispered is completely different from hearing it in a normal tone. The whisper makes the observation penetrate deeper layers of the psyche. Words of the future are those that create a subtle anticipation of moments you will share. These aren't direct promises, mind you, but subtle suggestions, planting seeds in his subconscious. "I can't wait to find out what you're thinking right now." When whispered close to his ear, this phrase does something powerful. It creates a mental loop where he becomes genuinely curious about his own thoughts and how you perceive them. But the most addictive words are the secret words. These are phrases that create the sensation that the two of you share something no one else knows, something intimate, exclusive, special. "Only you understand this about me." When whispered, this phrase isn't just a compliment, it's a declaration of a unique connection that his brain registers as something precious, something he doesn't want to lose. Louise Hay discovered that when you combine these 3 categories of words with a whisper at the right moments, you create what she called emotional imprinting. It's a process where your voice becomes literally engraved in his nervous system as a source of pleasure and comfort. But there's more. Louise Hay realized that the timing of the whisper is just as important as the words themselves. There's a specific moment in each interaction where the male brain is more receptive to what she called auditory programming. It's a moment where rational defenses are down and the subconscious is more open. This moment occurs in 3 main situations: right before he falls asleep, during moments of deep relaxation, and immediately after he feels understood by you. In the first case, with the whisper before sleep, you're taking advantage of the hypnagogic state, that moment between wakefulness and sleep where the subconscious is most influential. What you whisper at this moment has a much greater chance of being deeply absorbed. During moments of relaxation, when he's disarmed and present, the whisper works as positive conditioning. His brain associates your voice with well-being and tranquility. But the most powerful timing is right after he feels truly understood by you. When a man feels that you really understand him, that you see beyond the surface, he enters a state of emotional vulnerability that Louise Hay called neural opening. In this state, he's biologically programmed to connect more deeply with the source of that understanding. It is at this moment that whispering the right words creates the greatest neurological impact. But Louise Hay went even further. She developed what she called the 3-whisper sequence to maximize this effect. The first whisper is one of recognition. You identify something unique in him. The second whisper is one of connection. You build an emotional bridge. The third whisper is a subtle promise. You plant a seed for the future. For example, "There's something about the way you think that intrigues me." First whisper, "It's like I can feel your thoughts." Second whisper, "I want to discover more about that." Third whisper. When you do this sequence close to his ear, in moments of emotional opening, something extraordinary happens in the male brain. First, there's a release of oxytocin, the connection hormone. Second, the dopaminergic reward system is activated. Third, and most importantly, a neurological association is created between your voice and altered states of consciousness. This is literally how emotional addiction to your voice is formed. But Louise Hay discovered something even more fascinating. You can intensify this effect using what she called energetic modulation. It's not just about the tone of voice or the volume, it's about the energetic intention behind the words. Louise Hay taught that before whispering, you need to connect with a specific energy within yourself, an energy that she described as magnetic feminine. It's an energy that combines confidence with mystery, softness with power, presence with subtlety. When you whisper from this energy, your voice carries a hypnotic quality that goes beyond the words. It's as if the energy itself is transmitted through the sound vibration. And here we arrive at a crucial point that Louise Hay always emphasized. This is not manipulation. This is communication at the deepest possible level. You're not trying to control him. You're creating a channel of authentic intimacy where you both can connect in a deeper and more meaningful way. The difference is intention. When you use these techniques to create genuine connection, to strengthen the bond between you, to express love and intimacy more deeply, the result is a more satisfying relationship for both of you. But when you use this only to get something, or to manipulate behaviors, the effect is temporary and eventually counterproductive. Louise Hay always said, "The power of the whisper only truly works when it comes from an open heart." And that brings us to the second great secret of her method, energetic preparation. Before using any whispering technique, Louise Hay recommended a specific ritual that she called alignment of the magnetic feminine. These were 5 simple steps that prepared not only your voice, but your entire being to radiate the frequency that creates positive emotional addiction. The first step was uterine breathing. 5 deep breaths directed to the center of your feminine power, visualizing a golden light expanding from this region to your entire body. The second step was activating the voice of the heart. Placing a hand on your heart and feeling its pulse, then imagining that your words emerge directly from this energy center. The third step was connecting with your magnetic essence. Louise Hay taught her students to remember a moment where they felt completely irresistible, completely connected with their feminine power, and to anchor that feeling in the present. The fourth step was to set a clear intention for the whisper, not just what you want to happen, but how you want him to feel, what energy you want to transmit, what connection you want to create. The fifth step was activation of the velvet voice. Gentle humming for a few seconds to warm the vocal cords at a specific frequency that she had discovered to be the most hypnotic for the male ear. When you do this preparation before whispering, the difference is dramatic. Your voice not only sounds different, it carries an energetic quality that is immediately perceived by his subconscious, even if consciously he cannot explain what it is. It is this energetic quality that makes the difference between a common whisper and a whisper that creates emotional addiction. But Louise Hay was even more specific about the exact words that work best. She identified 15 phrases that, when whispered after proper energetic preparation, have an almost guaranteed effect of creating fascination and a desire for more. I'll share 5 of these phrases with you now, but I want you to understand, it's not about memorizing the word, and it's about feeling the energy behind them and adapting them to your personality and your relationship. The first phrase is, "There's a mystery about you that intrigues me." When whispered close to the ear, this phrase does 3 things simultaneously. It acknowledges his complexity, it admits your feminine curiosity, and it creates a mental loop where he becomes intrigued about what this mystery is. The second phrase is, "I feel something special when you're near." This phrase activates the dopaminergic reward system because it suggests that his presence has a unique effect on you. The male brain registers this as a profound validation of his worth. The third phrase is, "Your hands have an energy that calms me." This one is particularly powerful because it combines physical acknowledgement with energetic connection. When whispered, it makes him more aware of the power of his touch and more desirous of using it. The fourth phrase is, "There's something about your voice that moves me." This is one of the most addictive because it creates an interesting recursion. You're using your voice to complement his voice, creating a kind of auditory mirror that amplifies intimacy. The fifth phrase is, "I can't wait to be like this with you again." This plants a seed of anticipation and future longing. Even if you're together at the moment, it's already creating desire for the next encounter. Now, Here's where many women make a crucial mistake. They think they can use these phrases as magic formulas without understanding the science behind them. But Louise Hay always emphasized that the power of these words comes from three elements working together: energetic preparation, the correct timing, and emotional authenticity. Without energetic preparation, the words sound empty or even false. Without the correct timing, they might seem forced or inappropriate. Without emotional authenticity, they become mere superficial manipulation that eventually loses its effect. But when you combine the three elements, something magical happens. You're not just talking to him, you're creating a multisensory experience that activates multiple areas of his brain simultaneously. And here we arrive at the third great secret of Louise Hay's method, the creation of healthy emotional dependence. Louise Hay discovered that it's possible to make someone become addicted to your presence in a way that is beneficial to both, a way that creates more love, more connection, more genuine intimacy. The secret lies in what she called strategic dosage. Just like any substance that creates dependence, the hypnotic whisper needs to be used wisely. Too little, and it doesn't create the desired effect. Too much, and the brain adapts, losing sensitivity. Louise Hay developed a specific schedule that maximizes the impact while maintaining novelty. In the first 7 days, you use the techniques once every 2 days. This creates an intermittent pattern scientifically proven to be the most addictive for the human brain. From the second week onwards, you reduce to twice a week, but intensify the quality of the experience. More energetic preparation, more presence, more authenticity. From the third week, you vary not only the frequency, but also the type of whisper, sometimes acknowledgement, sometimes future, sometimes secrecy. This variation keeps his brain in constant anticipation, never knowing exactly what to expect, but always wanting more. That's exactly how the dopaminergic reward system works, and the uncertainty of the reward is more addictive than the reward itself. But Louise Hay was even more specific about how to intensify the effect over time. She identified 3 levels of whispering, each more powerful than the previous one. The first level is the surface whisper, words that affect his conscious mind, creating immediate pleasure and connection. The second level is the depth whisper, words that penetrate the subconscious, creating associations and emotional anchors. The third level is the soul whisper, words that touch his deepest essence, creating a connection that transcends the physical and emotional. Most women never go beyond the first level. They whisper pleasant things, create pleasurable moments, but they fail to generate the deep emotional addiction that Louise Hay taught. To reach the second and third levels, you need to understand something fundamental about the male psyche that Louise Hay discovered through decades of observation. Every man has 3 primal emotional needs that are rarely completely satisfied: the need to feel understood, the need to feel uniquely valued, and the need to feel chosen above all others. When you whisper words that satisfy these needs simultaneously, you create what Louise Hay called the emotional trifecta. It's an experience so deeply satisfying to the male psyche that his brain literally rewires itself to seek more of this experience. And this brings us to the fourth and final secret that Louise Hay revealed only to her most advanced students: the imprinting whisper. It's a specific technique used only once, at a special moment, that creates a permanent emotional mark in his memory. A whisper he will remember forever, that will make him compare all other female voices to yours, that will make your voice echo in his mind even when you are far apart. But this whisper can only be done when certain conditions are aligned, when the connection is at its deepest point, when he is in maximum emotional vulnerability, when you are completely present and connected to your feminine power. It is at this moment that you whisper the most powerful words that Louise Hay discovered, words that combine acknowledgement, future, secrecy, and a fourth category, union, words that make him feel that you are one soul in 2 bodies, that your connection is unique in the universe, that your voice is the soundtrack of his soul. And when these words are whispered at the right moment, with the right energy, they create such a deep impression that they completely transform the dynamics of the relationship. But here's what Louise Hay discovered about this imprinting whisper. It can only be used once. Like a fingerprint on his soul, it's irreversible and too powerful to be repeated. Therefore, she created a specific protocol to identify the right moment. First, you need to have spent at least 4 weeks using the other techniques. His brain needs to be conditioned to associate your voice with pleasure and deep connection. Second, he needs to have spontaneously verbalized how much your voice means to him. When a man consciously acknowledges the power of your voice, his subconscious is completely receptive. Third, you need to be in genuine emotional intimacy. Not forced, not planned, but organic. When he's truly vulnerable and open. It's only at this triple point that the imprinting whisper can be used safely and with maximum effectiveness. Louise Hay discovered that there are 2 versions of this final whisper. One for established relationships and another for conquests. For established relationships, the whisper focuses on renewing and deepening the connection. It's about making him fall in love with you again, but on a deeper level. For conquests, the whisper focuses on creating a healthy obsession. It's about making him feel he's found something rare and precious that he can't let go of. The difference lies not only in the words, but in the energetic intention behind them. Louise Hay always emphasized that the imprinting whisper carries a huge responsibility. When you mark someone's soul in this way, you're creating a connection that can last for decades. Therefore, she only taught this technique to women who demonstrated emotional maturity and genuine intentions of love. And here we come to the crucial point. The true power of the whisper isn't in the words themselves, but in the woman who speaks them. When you develop your feminine presence, when you connect with your inner power, when you radiate authenticity and self-love, your voice naturally becomes magnetic. The techniques Louise Hay taught are powerful tools, but they work best when you're already in harmony with yourself. Therefore, before applying any of these techniques, Louise Hay recommended a process of personal preparation that she called activating the inner goddess. These were specific exercises to awaken the magnetic feminine that exists within every woman. Exercises that work on the voice, the energy, the presence, the confidence, and the authenticity. Because in the end, a man doesn't just become addicted to your voice, he becomes addicted to the woman behind the voice, to the energy you carry, to the way you make him feel when he's in your presence. The whisper is just the vehicle. You are the message. And when you understand this completely, when you incorporate this truth into your being, something extraordinary happens. You no longer need to use techniques consciously. Your voice naturally becomes hypnotic. Your words naturally create positive emotional addiction. Your presence naturally magnetizes the men around you. This is what Louise Hay called mastery of the magnetic feminine. It's when you transcend the techniques and become the living technique itself. You now know the fundamental secrets that Louise Hay discovered. You understand how the male brain responds to the feminine whisper. You know which words to use and when to use them. But there's much more. Louise Hay developed specific protocols for different situations, secret words for special moments, and advanced techniques that she only revealed in her later years. Techniques that go beyond the whisper and enter the territory of what she called conversational feminine hypnosis. Methods that allow you to influence through any form of communication. And there's also the secret of how to maintain this emotional addiction over time, how to prevent his brain from adapting, how to intensify the effect as the relationship evolves. But perhaps most importantly, how to use these powers ethically and lovingly, creating satisfying and enriching relationships for both of you. Because that's the true legacy of Louise Hay. It wasn't just about creating addiction or dependence. It was about creating deep, authentic, and transformative connections between two people. It was about using the natural power of the feminine to heal, nurture, and elevate relationships to a level that most people don't even imagine is possible. And if you've come this far, if you've absorbed everything I've shared, then you've already taken the first step on this journey of transformation. You've already begun to awaken the magnetic goddess that exists within you. You've already begun to understand the extraordinary power that your voice possesses. Now the question that remains is, what will you do with this knowledge? How will you use these secrets to transform your relationships and your love life? The answer to that question will determine not only the success of the techniques, but the kind of woman you will become in the process. It will make him compare all other female voices to yours. It will make your voice echo in his mind, even when you are far apart. But this whisper can only be done when certain conditions are aligned, when the connection is at its deepest point, when he is in maximum emotional vulnerability, when you are completely present and connected to your feminine power. It is at this moment that you whisper the most powerful words that Louise Hay discovered, words that combine acknowledgement, future, secret, and a fourth category, union. Words that make him feel that you are one soul in two bodies, that your connection is unique in the universe, that your voice is the soundtrack of his soul, and when these words are whispered at the right moment, with the right energy, they create such a deep impression that